We are now experiencing the impacts of climate change. Small communities are experiencing more extreme weather, and they need to get prepared. My name is Cindy Pierce. I come from a small town in British Columbia, and I've had the honor to work with a number of people to create a small guidebook for forest-based communities in Canada so they can be better prepared for climate change impacts as they develop over time. Small communities in forest-based settings are most vulnerable to climate change, and we're seeing those impacts now. The sooner communities start to think about this and incorporate or mainstream climate change thinking into their day-to-day decisions, the stronger they'll be going forward and the less risk they'll face. Many communities are placed in locations that put them at risk. They're at confluences of rivers, they're on the edge of forests, and the impacts from climate change are going to be right in their backyard. There will be wildfires that will come up right to their doorstep. There will be floods that are going to come right by their front doors. And they don't have often 10 staff that are the emergency preparedness crew. It has to be the mayor and the fire chief, and that's all they've got. And so the better they're able to work together and be ready to work together when they get those kinds of stresses, then when they happen, whatever they are, they'll be better prepared to deal with them. The guidebook provides them with a structured way to learn more about climate change and to figure out what they can do in their community so they have fewer risks as time goes by. The guidebook has been tested in 2 First Nations communities with model forests in Canada, and we've also tested it at Vilhelmina in Sweden.
The guidebook was instrumental in keeping us, making us understand the issues, how to implement those, and of course how to adapt in the future to be a more resilient community. One of the challenges now is implementing that guidebook into our action plans, our community action plans, our emergency response plan, our pandemic plan, our health plan, and of course our economic development plan. By taking climate change into account, we are able to better adapt for that and to avoid any possible future issues. And it saves us millions of dollars in the future.
Working with the Vilhelmina model forest really helped us explore whether the principles we had developed in Canada would work in another boreal setting and really in another forest-based community setting.
We have found a model to adapt climate change. We have got great support from our Canadian colleagues, and now we are trying to follow the trail map that is a document that every citizen in Vilhelmina can work with.
Our hopes would be that a community, after going through the guidebook, would have a community-wide awareness and understanding of climate change so that people are thinking about it in every decision that they make, that they'll have really strong and tested emergency preparedness, so that if they have an extreme event, they're able to respond to it quickly and effectively, that they will have addressed any immediate threats, whether they're from floods or fires or change in their local industry because of climate change, and that if they're making any big investments in infrastructure like roads or water plants or buildings even, that they've thought about climate change and those are incorporated into the designs, and those long-term investments will be able to withstand climate change over decades. I think it's really crucial that the communities in boreal forests in particular become engaged in climate change adaptation, because the further north that you are, the greater the impacts are. The faster the climate is changing, the more it's going to change over time, and the bigger the impacts are. So I'm really hoping that boreal forest-based communities will take a hard look at the guidebook and see where it might fit into the work that they're doing.